Hello everyone, you're welcome to this news live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Bable Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television, Cameroon's Minister of Territorial Administration, Atanganji Paul, tells administrative authorities to build a cordial relationship with the population for effective intelligence gathering in order to ease the intervention of security and defense forces, especially in the crisis-stricken northwest, southwest, and far north regions of the Republic of Cameroon. He was speaking at the Semester Conference of Governors in Yaoundé today. Human trafficking on the rise in the Republic of Cameroon. Will be examining this issue in the second part of this newscast. Those were top stories. Stay with us. Governors of the 10 regions of the Republic of Cameroon are examining the socio-political, economic and security situation of the national territory. They are meeting in their semester conference in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, under the chairmanship of Territorial Administration Minister Paul Atanganji, and the governors are meeting at a time when the socio-political and security situation in several parts of the Republic of Cameroon, notably in the crisis-stricken northwest, southwest and far north, as well as the east regions of the country, remains quite unstable. But according to the governors of the crisis-stricken regions, there is a gradual return to normalcy. The security situation is stabilizing. Speaking to reporters, the governor of the far north region, where Boko Haram insurgency has been going on for over 10 years now, says the situation is gradually stabilizing. However, it should be noted that Boko Haram militants continue making sporadic incursions in parts of the far north region of the Republic of Cameroon, killing persons, looting properties, and burning down houses in some of the villages. The people have abandoned their homes and they are living on mountain tops, and some of them sleeping on trees because of the fear of the unknown. The uncertainty and fear looming over several parts of the far north region of the Republic of Cameroon is raising serious concerns from the population in those parts of the country, as well as the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon, where the security situation remains unstable. However, the administrative authorities are saying that there is a sign of a return to normalcy in those two regions, and the Minister of Territorial Administration, Atanganji Paul, talking to the governors, urged them to build a cordial relationship with the population. Take a listen to this extract of Minister Atanganji Paul. More than ever before, the maintenance of order is now a prime assignment of administrative authorities. In the security domain, the synergy between the administrative authorities and defense and security forces in the tracking of terrorists and thieves should be reinforced.
Si l'autorité administrative a 90% du bon renseignement,
with 90% of involvement of administrative authorities in intelligence gathering, tracking down of enemies becomes easy and speedy. Poor intelligence gathering will adversely affect the intervention of security and defense forces, and criminals will easily run away. Criminals should be tracked down and handed to the judicial system. For effective intelligence gathering, administrative authorities should have a cordial relationship with the population. Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph Dion Kuti highlights the positive impact or fallouts of the major national dialogue on the two English-speaking regions of the Republic of Cameroon and the socio-political tension reigning there. He says that the implementation of recommendations of that meeting, which took place in 2019, is being felt on the ground, despite the fact that many villagers continue deserting several villages in those parts of the Republic of Cameroon, fleeing away from continuous violence and atrocities being committed in their neighborhoods, killings, destruction going on in those two regions. And the Prime Minister says that the implementation of recommendations of the major national dialogue is yielding fruits despite the unstable situation still prevailing there. He spoke to Smart Njikan Gebre in Pidgin News Debate. Details in this report by Fomi and from Sanda.
Speaking of the Pidgin TV debate, Prime Minister Joseph John Gute raised a couple of economic and social points which to him points to the successes of the implementation of the resolutions of the major national dialogue 4 years after.
Today, for that hall, we will get the president.
Today we have the president of the Northwest Regional Assembly and that of the Southwest Regional Assembly, the public independent conciliator for the Northwest and that of the Southwest region, 3 participants from the diaspora.
Brothers for diaspora, what they call the state diaspora, those were there for America.
Economically, the Prime Minister said agro-industrial structures like the CDC, palm oil and the Ndawara tea plantations have begun exporting produce as against a zero production and exportation between 2019 and 2020.
But 2022, CDC don't start export banana.
He says people can now drink beer and go home at late hours in Kumba and Ekondochiti, for example.
Condition, give me amnesty, near be certain.
Affirming that President Paul Biya will no doubt give amnesty to diasporans who wish to collaborate. The Prime Minister John Gute at the same time tactically escaped the question of a second and a more inclusive major national dialogue by shifting the decision to the judgment of President Paul Biya.
No, they decide. Now they decide.
To armed separatists, the traditional ruler raised a carrot and a stick.
We know what the boys with the day for bush.
We all know the armed separatists, and we should collectively talk them out of the bushes.
Communicate to them. If you dare on the road with guns,
if you keep holding guns, you will one day be caught by soldiers.
No, we see people like a field marshal, na giant. You get all munga. At
the time of his presentation, no son and daughter of the Libialem division of the Southwest region was available in the headquarters Menji to welcome the newly appointed senior divisional officer. The Kumbundu Nkambe, Meseje Wum and Wum Bamenda stretches of the ring road have still not found favor in the eyes of the Paul Tasson-led presidential plan for the reconstruction and development of the Northwest and Southwest regions 4 years after the major national dialogue.
Now to the Adamawa region of the Republic of Cameroon, where the people are lamenting and complaining over socio-economic challenges making life much more difficult than it should be. In that part of the Republic of Cameroon, they are talking of bad roads, inadequate supply of potable water, electricity, and other social amenities. Inosenazi has more.
Just like other regions in Cameroon, the Adamawa also faces the problems of bad roads, lack of electricity, drinking water, hospitals, schools, and others, according to these elites from different divisions.
What we face, or what I face particularly as a youth for several years now, we have been pushing maybe to be integrated in some domains, but not at all, like finance in the agricultural domains and many other domains, that's professional domains. It is really difficult for us, and what we really plead is that things must change, at least for our young brothers coming up.
Land grabbing and gender inequality are not left out.
We have women, they are not going to the school, they are not taking part of activity who can provide them money or other things. So it's time for us to wake up where we are and to go work hardly to our region.
This elite says Adamawa is a pastoral zone, but for some time now, they have noticed a mad rush for parcels of land. This is putting a question mark on what will become of their pastoral activity. In the Adamawa region, agriculture and pastoral nomadism are the leading activities. In a bid to address these endured problems, the Association of Persons drawn from the 5 divisions of the Adamawa region, the Mayo Banyo, Jerem, Mbere, Faro Andeo, and Vina, met to discuss ways out and elect a dynamic bureau that will work towards a common goal.
It's moment for us to come like one person and to work, to find solution to build our town.
We have a long way to go. By the end of the work, we'll be able to sit, to make a stop and think everything over and say whether we have gone the right way or the wrong way. The first resource is the human resource, and we have them in abundance. Suppose we have 2.5 million inhabitants in this region, then you can say we have an organization relying on 2.5 million people.
The population of the Adamawa region are expected to, on their part, support the association to ease the change drive.
Today marks exactly 108 years since the tragic death of 2 historic figures, Rudolph Douala Mangabel and Gossodin, in commemoration or during the commemoration of the death of these important historic figures here in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. Some indigents of this part of the country denounce land expropriation that is going on now in rampantly, and the people were denouncing this, which is something that the historic figures, notably Rudolph Douala Mangabel, fought against when they were still alive. And today, the fight continues. Anabila reports.
The Douala indigents are in tears. The locals of Canton Bell and others have come together to mourn the brutal death by hanging of their son, Douala Mangabel, alongside his secretary, Ngosodin, some 108 years ago.
La mort brutale de Douala Manga et toutes les personnes qui ont perdu leur vie entre 1884 et 1914 pour défendre leur dignité est traumatisant.
The brutal killing death of Douala Mangabel and all those who died within that time is very traumatizing.
Hommage à Dikolo. Leur combat est toujours d'actualité, car aujourd'hui encore, nous sommes chassés. La commémoration
The commemoration of the 108th anniversary of the execution of Douala Mangabel and Ngosodin, plus other historic figures, has as theme homage to Dikolo. Their fight is still of actuality because today we are being chased like nobodies from our villages, like what happened at the Sengi and Dikolo. Never again, never, not in that manner.
Plus jamais ça, en tout cas de cette manière.
The Sawa chiefs and their people, despite the cruel weather, assembled in Bonanjo to as well pay homage to the villagers of Dikolo and Isenge, whom the chiefs say are desperate, caused by forceful eviction. These custodians of tradition insist that cultural values must be upheld with no outside interference.
Faut-il rappeler que Quand l'institution traditionnelle.
When traditional institutions are exposed, they become inaudible, and the Dikolo drama is a pure consequence of this fragilization. I want us to have a moment to think of the people of Dikolo and Isenge who have no roof under their heads.
Pour les habitants de Dikolo et d'Isenge, ayant une pensée pour tous ceux qui sont jusqu'à ce jour sans toit ni assistance.
The Dwalas perform traditional rites on the site where Douala Manga Bear was hanged, and prayers meet to continue denouncing the expropriation of their lands.
Au nom de l'amour, personne n'a le droit de dégager quelqu'un de son territoire.
In the name of love, no one can evict people from their village if all of us are imbibed with love, whoever you might be. The respect of people's land is sacred because it's God that attributed this land to the Sawas.
Terre est sacrée car c'est Dieu, le Père, qui a attribué au peuple Sawa cette terre.
Douala Manga Bell is considered a symbol of defense of cultural and ancestral values by the Doualas, and he was killed for that cause.
À quand les excuses au peuple camerounais? His
descendants are still waiting for the apologies of the German colonial masters.
Now in sports, Cameroon's Olympic team fails to grab even a point in its first game against Algeria's under-23 team at the Olympic or Islamic Solidarity Games, and the team's absence caused its defeat. Meanwhile, Cameroon will return home with 3 medals, 1 gold, 1 silver and 1 bronze from the Commonwealth Games, and the games will end later today. Magic and Gabriel has more.
Ball matches at the Islamic Solidarity Games are expected to start this Monday, but sad enough, the Olympic team that has been training is still in the country. According to our source within the Cameroon National Olympic and Sports Committee, the lack of centralization within the federation is to be blamed for this delay. Our informer told us that the same head of delegation who is presently in Birmingham for the Commonwealth Games is the same to lead Cameroon to Konya in Turkey for the Solidarity Games. Opponents of Cameroon at the football tournament, Algeria and Senegal, alongside Turkey, are already getting used to the hot Turkish weather. Not only football team is waiting, the other athletes to participate at the Islamic Solidarity Games have not yet traveled to Konya in Turkey, just some few hours to the official opening ceremony of that event. Elsewhere, weightlifter Ngaja Nyabeyu Jr. will be remembered for being the first Team Cameroon athlete that enabled the anthem of Cameroon to be heard in Birmingham during the Commonwealth Games. Ngaja Nyabeyu Jr. won gold medal in the 109-kilogram weightlifting competition. 33-year-old Alet Mawe Kokwa was also a happy flag bearer in Birmingham as the physically disabled woman won silver in the F57 shot put with a throw of 9 meters 38, which happened to be the personal best record for the athlete. Another medal for Team Cameroon at the Games came through Etanen Ngole Beth, who won bronze in the 63-kilogram freestyle wrestling. Apart from these 3 medals, Amugu Linda and Eseme Emmanuel missed out on medals for Team Cameroon in the 200 meters women's and men's race alongside 100 meters men's athletic competition. Out of the over 30 athletes who represented Cameroon at the Commonwealth Game in Birmingham, just 3 will be returning with medals. The performance of Team Cameroon in Birmingham is better than what they put up in Gold Coast, Australia. In Birmingham, Cameroon plucked 3 medals, 1 gold, 1 silver and 1 bronze, better than the 2 silver and a bronze that they won in Gold Coast, Australia during the 2018 Commonwealth Games. Generally, the best African delegation that was in Birmingham was Nigeria. The team ranked 7th with 37 medals, has 12 gold, 9 silver and 14 bronze. Ese Brume recovered her Commonwealth title in the long jump this weekend, while Toby Amusen made history running a Commonwealth Games record of 12.30 in the women's 100 meters hurdles before powering the quartet of Favour Ofili, Rosemary Chukuma and Grace Nwokocha to create a new African record of 42.10 seconds to win gold in the 4x100 meters women's race. South Africa is Africa's second best nation in Birmingham with a total of 27 medals, 7 gold, 9 silver and 11 bronze. On the African classification, Cameroon is classified fifth with 3 medals, 1 gold, 1 silver and 1 bronze. The Commonwealth Games ends this August 8, 2022 in Birmingham.
Smart Njikan Gabriel ending the first part of this newscast. Talking Point is up next. Our guest today is Aya Joseph, Human Rights and Peace Advocates, Executive Director of the Center for Human Rights and Peace Advocacy, CRAPA. Thank you for joining us today. Let's begin by understanding what exactly is trafficking in person.
Started as far back as a human being was created by God, where other human beings were treated as slaves, recruited and treated as slaves. But we know that after the campaign against slave trade, especially led by William Wilberforce, the traffickers or the slave owners tend to adopt different measures, just like any other criminal act, where when you stop from the door, they create windows, they create fissions where they can use. And so trafficking in person became another element of slavery, where the people were recruited, transferred, harbored, and used in different level of labor. And so the trafficking element of it is that there must be an element of recruitment, transfer, harboring, and exploitation of the labor of this person. I know, as I know, that many people or any other human being can be exploited, can be recruited, can be exploited, but the group of people that suffer most are especially women and children, because they are basically vulnerable. And we know that with many crises that we experience around the world, particularly in Cameroon, talking more precisely about the conflict in the northwest and southwest, many people have been displaced, and so their vulnerability has simply been exacerbated. And so they are dangerously exposed to trafficking rings and to exploitation.
How serious is the crime?
It's a transnational organized crime, which is a very serious crime. And transnational organized crime is one of those international crimes that is at the competence of the International Court of Justice. And so you see how serious it is. And to say how more serious it is, we know that in Palermo, they have adopted a Palermo Protocol, which is a legal instrument to repress and suppress trafficking in person. And so it is a very serious offense. And we know that Cameroon is a party to this convention or to this treaty. And Cameroon, in the incorporation of this instrument, has adopted a law on trafficking in human beings. The law was adopted in 2005 as a child trafficking law, and it became revised in 2011, and it is now a human trafficking law in Cameroon, which has provisions that sanctions, serious sanctions, await any person who will be found guilty of having committed this crime.
Now, what is the rate of trafficking in person in Cameroon and across the national borders?
That the rate is very serious, because if you read the annual report of the U.S. State Department produced every year on trafficking in person in every country, talking about every country, we realize that this report still classify Cameroon as a tier 2 watch list country, which is quite dangerous, which means that the level of trafficking in Cameroon is quite high, irrespective of the fact that there is a law. and it has remained in Tier 2 watch list because traffickers are not being prosecuted and punished. They are not being held accountable. And so Cameroon is a country that is seen to be a transit, a harbor of these goods, if you might permit me use the term, to other countries, to other neighboring countries, and abroad, as you have said.
Now, apart from the fact that many of the traffickers are not punished, as you have said, what are the other enabling factors increasing this illegal activity?
Exactly. We know that it became a thorny issue when Cameroon accepted to go through what we call at the time the readjustment plan. And when Cameroon accepted to do this readjustment plan, you know that so many people, so many civil servants were laid off in order to combat the economic crisis which Cameroon was facing at that time. This made families dangerously poor and dangerously exposed and became so vulnerable. And so those who were laid off now started using their own people, their own children, for their daily bread, to fend for their daily bread. And this is how the situation became so serious. And you know, apart from this laying off, we know that Cameroon is, at the time, was seen as a very poor and indebted country. And so this poverty dangerously endangered or made Cameroon and its citizens vulnerable and exposed to all sorts of crime, which of course the trafficking in persons crime became the order of the day.
What you say now is in line with the videos we have been seeing on social media, young Cameroonians, especially young girls, lamenting over poor treatment, inhumane treatment to which they are subjected in Lebanon, in Kuwait, and other countries.
Yes, they are not only lamenting. I think we have videos of your colleagues from that side and other concerned people who send in videos, and they are piloting the social media, which of course that is the very important element to identify that these people who travel, who migrate to other countries for search of their livelihood, for search of employment, which of course is a basic right for people to migrate, became exposed to all sorts of violations, which of course trafficking in person. And so we want to say that even as Cameroon has evolved from the position of heavily indebted and poor country, poverty is still a thorny issue where people escape their country, their villages, their regions into other places to look for greener pasture. And so Cameroonians are still very much exposed to becoming vulnerable, and hence a good tool for trafficking in person. I was traveling the other day. I was traveling to Geneva, and I met two ladies, young ladies, and they told me that they were going to Lebanon. And when they said they were going to Lebanon, I immediately, in fact, it gave me ghost pimple. I said, what are you going to do there? They said they have found them a job. I said, how long is your visa? The person has only 3 weeks validity of the visa. And so already, unfortunately, I did not collect her contact over there. Already, you already suspect that this is a good case of trafficking, and it will be as such.
How has the security tensions, particularly in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, increased trafficking in person within the national territory?
Yeah, let me begin by saying that this very crisis, which has shaken the foundation of the very renowned debtor of Cameroon, has caused a lot of havoc, that people have moved, mass movement. There have been about over 30,000 people internally displaced in Cameroon, and you cannot even count those who have migrated to neighboring countries. We know one of the reasons is that when the crisis just started off, villages were razed down by the forces of law and order. The non-armed state actors came in with attacks on citizens, on the civilians, and people were moving. And it has even been exacerbated this time when they have resolved not to be fighting against the military, but fighting against the citizen through kidnap and asking for ransom. So many people are packed out. Many of those who were in these two regions and struggling for their daily bread have left to other regions, particularly in your Douala here and Yaoundé and many other big towns. And yet, when you move, until you find your feet, you become vulnerable. And when you come to think about the children with whom you have moved, you see that they can be exposed to any other thing. Somebody can just invite your child to say, oh, there is a job here, come and do this job, or something else. Because when we are talking about trafficking, we also talk about sex trafficking. And so anything can happen with these people who have moved from their very natural habitat to find greener pasture or find security elsewhere. Yes, the answer is absolutely yes. Because starting in Bamenda town particularly, there have been such a mass movement from the interlands, from the villages into this town. And they are living in different quarters in Bamenda. And when you come to see how the people stay, you can find a small room of 3.5 meters square, inhabited by close to 10 people who sleep on the floor. And each person has to look for a way to feed his or herself. And so this is a situation that anybody can exploit it, especially those who want to exploit the labor of the other people. And so the case we've had, the numerous cases we've had, are cases of this nature. And talk less of those who come to move to Douala here. When we did our survey, we discovered that there are so many people who left their places, their villages in the northwest and the southwest, and came to Douala without knowing where they were going to stay, with whom they were going to stay, which means that they became street people. Such people are not other people than exposing themselves to vulnerability, more vulnerability, and hence to the hands of traffickers.
Fight this ill. The Center for Human Rights and Peace Advocacy, CRAPA, has been on this for several years. What have you been doing exactly?
Yeah, I know that many people are getting the term trafficking in person for their first time, and many have got it very recently. The combat against trafficking in person started as far back as 2002, when very little was even known. And the Cameroon administration at that time had not even yet accepted that such a pest exists in Cameroon. And so the first thing that we did as a civil society, which I was privileged to be part of that, was that we brought in information, collect information, create awareness raising, which awareness raising included government officials to let them understand what exactly we mean by trafficking in person, the various complex way by which it occurs. And it was at this time that they now accepted, oh yeah, so we really have this crime in our country. And so took the challenge to combat it. So the first step to combat is even the state, because it is the state's responsibility to protect the lives and property of its citizens. And so the Cameroon government therefore went in to adopt this law in 2005 after a series of meetings and the adoption of the draft law by all the stakeholders at the time that constituted this network. But then in 2005, it was realized that law was adopted. I don't know whether it was at the parliament, at the level of the parliament, even though we went to parliament to sensitize the parliament on the issue of trafficking in person, so that when government finally tabled this law, they should vote. I don't know whether it was at that level that one important aspect, quite a few important aspects was removed, which included making it a human trafficking law. In 2005, they made it a child trafficking law, which means that it did not, it was not protective. Yeah, it was not protective of grown-ups, because everybody can be trafficked. Even you, Babila, you can be trafficked, and I can also be trafficked If the moment I fall into vulnerability, any person can use my services, my labor in any form, and pay very little for that. Once that element of exploitation is identified, it is trafficking. And so what I'm saying is that in 2005, when the law was adopted, it was adopted as a child trafficking law. And we did not stop. So I'm answering the question, what have we been doing? We did not stop to continue to impress on the government to amend the law, which amendment, of course, happened in December 2011, now to include human trafficking law. Now that is it. And even now we're still working, we're still requesting the state to make the law the victim-centered law, because the law has a lot of sanctions which list imprisonment terms range from 5 years to 20 years, and with a huge amount to pay. But now this huge amount, which ranges from 100,000 francs to 10 million francs, gets into the coffers of the states. It is not going to the victim. And so it is still realized that the law has a lot of challenges which government should definitely look into to make it really human or victim-centered law. Because most often when you get identify a case and you want to press on for prosecution, the victim would prefer out-of-court settlement. Of course, it is still a process of rendering justice, rendering accountability, but it should be expressly and substantively put in the law so that the trafficker can the victim can benefit from this protection. And so most often the cases, the victim will prefer out-of-court settlement, and we can strike a balance on whatever an amount that can settle the person he will accept. But this is not something good for our state, because the world expects that the state to implement its law by prosecuting, holding accountable traffickers. As if this is not enough, we work with development partners, which development partners include diplomatic services, and we are privileged to have received the financial assistance, generous financial assistance from the U.S. State Department through the U.S. Embassy in Cameroon, and we are working on that. And here we are providing assistance, non-food item assistance to trafficking in person, and also will have to prosecute those who will find that will go to court.
Earlier you said that many of the traffickers are not punished according to the law. Why is the implementation of the human trafficking law not very effective?
Many of those who are caught in the trafficking ring are people who are economically, politically very powerful, because they claim they occupy important places in our Cameroonian society. But as you know, the law is not a respecter of any person. And so there is a need, therefore, for government to continue to increase its will, the political will, to see into it that whoever is identified as a trafficker is punished. So what I'm saying is that it is the responsibility of the state to do it. Because if the state does not take that responsibility, no matter how hard we push, it will not go anywhere. But let me say that there is a limping step the state is taking, which we wish they should increase this, to see into it that our society for once is seen to be a civilized human society, by encouraging the courts to be able to try cases that are suspected to be human trafficking cases. I'm not saying that the court does not receive. Most of the cases we have sent into court have been that in defense of the charges, they make identify the charges as relative to other crimes. Rape, for example, they would handle a sex trafficking case as rape. They will handle other related cases as labor cases. which of course we are saying that is trafficking in person because the person's labor was exploited. And so it is the place of the state to create legal frameworks, administrative and social framework, to be able to protect these people, which one of the duties of this framework should be to receive reports from all courts in Cameroon of how they are implementing this law. I would say that even other laws, so that the law should be able.
Executive Director of the Center for Human Rights and Peace Advocacy, Krapa, thank you for your time today. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today's edition of the 6 p.m. Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television. Goodbye.